Welcome to Mindful Way Show. Here we are. The first episode is on. I am Michal.
And my name is Andras, and we are Mindful Way, where we talk about self-improvement and artificial intelligence. I know you'd be right asking how these two come together, but let me explain. So let me start by giving you a little background as to who we are and who this podcast is for. Miguel and I are just a couple of friends who met years ago while working on a project, and many long conversations later, we discovered that we share a passion for improving our lives. We'd spend hours discussing challenges we face or little improvements we made while we are on a journey towards a mindful and happier existence. So we thought, why not publish these conversations and see if there are like-minded people who'd like to join us and maybe share their own stories so we can all learn from each other. Slight contrast to this holistic approach to life is our fascination with technology, in particular advancements made in AI. We think the current state of AI is somewhat similar to that of the internet at the end of the 90s, which we think is super exciting. There are so many AI productivity tools out there. I'm sure you're all aware of that, but that's not what we want to talk about. We want to explore how artificial intelligence could help ordinary people like us live a more fulfilling life and be more content. So each podcast episode, we will focus on an area of self-development or everyday life we find challenging. These will be wide-ranging topics from relationships to mental health, personal finance, exercise, or even outside factors that influence us on a larger scale as part of a society. Imagine each episode as a casual conversation and discovery without script. We will try to inspire you by sharing our own personal thoughts and experiences, and we will be trying AI tools on screen to experience them together and see how they could help with these. We also want to encourage you to try this yourselves. Our aim is not to offer solutions. There are plenty of self-made experts out there on the internet. We want to inspire you to think, reflect, and draw your own conclusions and apply what you learned to your own personal journeys. We also have a newsletter which goes out at the same time as the podcast and offers a short version of each of these discussions and offers a bit of scientific research done on each of these subjects. So it's definitely worth checking out for some additional information. That it's enough of the introduction. I'll hand it over to Mikhail to talk about the importance of self-improvement and why we think advancements in AI are so important. We'll then jump into today's topic, which is self-awareness, the main pillars of the self-development journey.
Yeah, I think the first thing is, why is it important? Why self-development and that inner journey is something of importance? And to different people, this will be a different answer. But we have pretty uncertain times right now in the world, and a lot of people are also feeling pretty lost in what's going on, and a lot of tensions, a lot of concerns. There is so much information coming at us from all angles, and in uncertain times, a good way to go through everyday life is focusing inside, focusing on the inner self. That can work for a lot of people, and like you said, we have expectation that people who think the way we do are going to be enjoying our show. So the people who would find our show interesting are the people who derive strength from understanding. So curious people, and also people who are more into the technology side of things. So we're talking about AI as artificial intelligence. We know we have those tools that have been out now for many, many months, like ChatGPT and others. So we also know that only a small percentage of internet users worldwide are using those tools. So we want to appeal to those who are interested, who maybe have already been using to various degrees of success, and people who are maybe interested in getting on board with those tools, because we know that the way where it's going, sooner or later, all of us will be exposed to it. We are in the early days of this technology side of things, and we recognize that AI at the moment is very much talked about in the realms of productivity. So how can we be more productive, how can we do more work, how can we basically make money ourselves with AI.
Yeah.
And in our conversations, what we found some weeks and months ago, that hey, perhaps besides productivity, there is that other side of usefulness for AI and for those large language models like ChatGPT and the tools that can be based on this technology. So we would like to be exploring this side of things, how personal development can be aided by large language models, by AI. And we don't know where this show will take us, but we certainly are interested. We want to be having that conversation a little more formal, a little more deep, and share that with others. So hopefully we will be inviting our listeners to the stage and have a conversation with like-minded people, so we can explore those things together. And I guess what's going to be unique about the way we do things is that we are going to be presenting our personal perspectives, and hopefully they are interested. Our perspectives are interesting enough to others, so that you guys want to engage in the conversation with us.
Yeah, and the way we are different from others is we're not going to offer solutions. We're going to offer experiences, our experiences, and we're going to try AI tools on how they might help. So we're not going to, sell a course, or we're not going to say to you, do this or do that. We're going to explore this together.
Yeah, very much
And,
like a journey of curiosity, right? So join us.
Exactly. It's just talking about these things, and we think AI is really going to change our lives so much that this is something worth talking about.
Absolutely.
So yeah, this is what we're going to do. So we hope a lot of people will join us, and a lot of people will share their own experiences. We might do podcasts where we talk about things that people send to us or their stories. We'll maybe invite people over to share their experiences. Yeah, it's exciting. The possibilities are endless, basically.
Yeah, also I would add here that with the podcast will come the newsletter. Do you want to talk a little bit about the newsletter, or would we just leave the link for people to check it out?
Yeah, maybe just mention it a little bit. So the newsletter is going to be on the same topic as the podcast, but we will do some research. So there will be some links to scientific research on AI, what AI is capable of doing, and how the topic relates to mindful way of living. It's a different side to what we do on the podcast. We're more of a long form conversation. Newsletter is a shorter form for people who are interested. So it's worth checking out both and see which one you like. But yeah, so the newsletter is a summary basically of what we talk about here on the podcast.
Yeah, and I would like to come back to something you just said about the early days of the internet, and just to bring it to life, thinking about being this user of emails in the very early days of internet. I mean, not the first months, but maybe the first year or two, where you know that you are touching some technology and using some technology that you can easily imagine that the whole world will be using, and you see the usefulness of it. You see how much faster it is to type an email and click send. What was the fastest means back then? I guess a telephone or a telegram, right? So that shift in capability was massive, and relatively few people were exposed to it early on. And now we are in the similar time with AI, just as you described. I had a look at Google for mental health and mental disorders. And there is this statistic that 76 to 85% of people suffering from mental disorders in low and middle income countries lack access to the necessary treatment. And this is from the World Health Organization. And they say even more so in developed nations, many cases of mental illness go undiagnosed and unreported because the patients are either ashamed of their illness or unaware that it's a medically treatable condition. And I guess it makes a strong case here for AI, because
acceptability
perhaps don't want to talk about those things, right? Like we'll feel much more encouraged. But also the vast majority of people who just can't afford help. So it opens this interesting possibility for AI to be this experimental ground where people say, hey, something is like, I feel a bit lost. I don't quite get why, I don't know, others are getting ahead in life and I'm not. Well, I will take a look. I will try and see what this kind of resources can comment as kind of next step for me. Just those little difference that can be made by recommendations from something like large language models. And maybe we need to go separately into like the capabilities and what AI can do. We just don't know at which level our listeners would be. So if anyone is listening, drop us a comment and ask any questions of explanations, perhaps, like if you would like our take on how it works, how we think it works, right? Because we are not AI experts. We just, curious users or early adopters, you can say. But there is this tremendous possibility for very low cost access to bettering one's life. And AI certainly offers that. We can see that already, like that reference to the early users of email. They knew that this is something that everyone will be at some point using because it just makes sense. We see AI's ability to help, the mental cogs running in our heads to be that, kind of best friend type of advice thing certainly is there. We experience it.
Yeah, and it's even more powerful now because back in the day when email came around, mobile phones weren't the thing. So everybody had to have, you wanted to use electronic email, then you needed a computer. But now everybody has a mobile phone, even low-income families, they get a phone to communicate. So the access is even wider. So everyone can have access to AI nowadays through their phones. And as you said, if everyone had an AI companion accessible that they can speak to and ask questions, then why not explore that? Talking about is definitely a thing. So I don't know where our listeners are going to come from. I'm sure there will be some, all over the world. So talk to us, send us a message and say what you'd like to see more of, maybe trying more AI tools, talk about more of this and that. So we'll go from here. This is a starting point and we'll develop this conversation. So when we
and I think even more so, it's very much a search. It's some journey of discovery, right? Because setting aside that inner journey of discovery that we are on, and I should say everybody who values self-awareness or personal development is on that journey. But there is this journey of discovery of what technology actually enables. Large language models now come. Okay, as ChatGPT was first from OpenAI, right? And then we have other large language models. Even some of them can run on a mobile device without any internet connection, right? So to referring to what you said, you literally can have all that knowledge and conversational capability in your pocket, right? In any language. But it's a journey of discovery on back of this technology. What applications will be created? What various companies will be offering as aids, as AI-enabled aids in personal development. So we have been looking, right? We have not found like an awful lot, but it just seems like such an obvious use case that perhaps we are just very early. But even with ChatGPT, which I guess will be our primary way of conveying like the potential and possibilities in that realm of not productivity where everybody focuses, but mental side of things and self-development.
Yeah, there are definitely a few of them, like the personal intelligence one, which is created exactly for that purpose to help people with mental challenges and have someone to talk to. So we'll explore that as well in one of our podcasts because that's an interesting tool.
Yeah, so the one you mentioned, the PI or personal intelligence, right? So that one is created as a kind of a person, like an artificial intelligence friend, so who will get to know you, who will be like a companion. Now that's one way of taking things. Just this AI entity that obviously will be evolving with time. It will be learning, and you develop some sort of relationship with it now. On the other side, there could be tools that are very much like kind of one use, so they don't retain information about you. You don't develop personal relationship with them, but they can put you on a certain direction of thinking, for example, right? A one use
Yeah.
and that's it. So much more
Yeah.
specialized. And so
That's
there are various ways that this could be implemented, and we are very curious in finding out, what people do with it.
Yeah, that's also an interesting point because we talked about AI and how it can help, but we also need to remember that AI is just a tool. So what it can do is guide us or put us on a path, but the work we have to do, we have to put in ourselves to create a better life for ourselves, to become more content. It's not a solution; it's a tool that helps us on the journey.
Yeah, the struggle. That's where it can be very helpful to not to motivate us, but to give us more clarity on why certain things are important, and not
Yeah.
just universally, because universally is almost like, well, let's all be the same, but that's not the point. We are all very different. So
Yeah.
how it can help us with customized advice, with personal advice that is really tailored to the way we are, right? And these are very nuanced things and difficult to pick up, even for like a friend or a family member or even psychologist, right? But the power of data and the ability to read it and interpret it could be just a very powerful thing for AI to do with us.
When you put your problem into AI, you want to find a solution. So it might give you ideas that you never thought of. Like, when we talk on the phone or video call, we always guide each other onto a new way of thinking, like, finding a new way of thinking about something. So AI might help people, tell them, look, this is my problem. I'm looking for ways to solve it. And it might give you solutions that you never thought of. So yeah, it's very exciting. So should we get on to talk about our first topic?
Yeah. So, I don't know what you think we could do next. We could, for example, go into ChatGPT and actually put in some prompts and just to have a feel, because maybe some of people listening have not tried that, or maybe some of people listening have been trying ChatGPT for other tasks and are familiar with it, but just have not seen this kind of, let's say, personal development tasks with
So
ChatGPT. Or we can talk about what self-awareness means to us, and then go into ChatGPT.
yeah. So what I'm thinking is, let's introduce it as, let's talk about self-awareness now, and then after we discuss self-awareness, let's look at what AI or how AI can help us on a self-awareness journey.
All right. Well, since we're
So
so keen on talking on self-awareness, why don't you start and tell us what, because self-awareness, again, is like there is a definition. Anyone can go to Google and read the definition, but what, out of all possible basket of meanings, like which are the important ones for you, and how do you define self-awareness, like in your own words, and what are the relevant examples from your life?
so self-awareness for me, it started out as like a self-awakening, I guess. So talking to, there is a point, I think, everybody can remember, if you were on this journey, when you realize that I am my own individual, and I react to things a certain way, or I project myself in a way that I'm not aware of until somebody, and that's happened to me. Somebody told me honestly, which is appreciated. I always appreciated honest opinions of me. So in this particular instance, somebody told me I come across a bit arrogant, so not approachable.
Yes, the last thing I would say about you, but maybe it was many years ago.
No, but it was 23 years ago. So it was a long time ago. And then I started thinking about, well, that's not the way I feel, and that's not the way I want to be projecting. I want to be kind, I want to be friendly, I want to be approachable to people. So I think that was the first step, when I started thinking about, how can I change in a way that I am better. But I guess being better, it also depends on what your values are or what your perception of being better is. That's very
So,
individual
but
to
before we
everybody.
go into values, like let me stop you there. So, do I understand it correctly that you talk about like this perception of self that when we are younger is like somehow limited, so we lack perspectives, and so we think that
Yeah.
our version of reality is the correct one, that others see the world pretty much exactly the way we do, and so that lack of understanding that perspectives vary greatly, is that the right way to frame it?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So, not thinking about how you affect people with your actions or how you approach everyone. So, it's basically being opening up your mind to how you affect the world around you.
Right.
And so yeah, that was the key point for me to start looking inwards. And there was one earlier. It was an emotional response that was even a couple of years back before this point. And I was at the workplace and I was accused of something I didn't do. So it was very not. So it was the injustice that made me very angry, and it made me so angry that I didn't I experienced something emotionally that I never experienced before,
Right.
and then kind of scared me because then I realized I don't even know myself, so I don't even know how I react to certain situations. So I needed to dig deeper and explore and analyze situations to to see what my reactions were. And I guess the one final point about self awareness is what helped me a lot in knowing myself better is being alone and reflecting. Meaning, some people might journal or, put down their thoughts and then analyze them. And for me, he was turning inwards and thinking a lot about experiences in my life and how I reacted or what happened. And then kind of that became that was the basis on how of change, of how I would change myself, be better, live a better life. And it's not just about how I treat other people, but also how I treat myself.
Mhm.
So it is a very broad subject, but these were the main events for me that helped put me on the journey of a bettering myself.
Wow,
So
a set of great stories, and listening to that just makes me feel exactly like why I love talking to you, and why it's just such a nice thing to have a friend like you, because you are so authentic and you have those
I'm
deep
very old and
reflections.
wise.
Yeah, it's a great qualities. Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely had an interesting life, and we could talk about life experiences later. So basically, I lived in 3 different countries, and I met a lot of people, and I've been depending on myself a lot, and that's how my personal development journey started. So what does it mean to you? How did you get on the journey? What was
Side
your
note, we definitely need to get like an episode or plan at some point an episode about like life experiences and traveling and living in different places, because
yeah.
it's such a great topic, right? And again, we share that. So yeah, my journey with self-awareness, interestingly, a lot of things that you said really ring the bell for me. So again, another testament to like us being pretty much aligned on a lot of those things, and probably one of the reasons why we decided to start this show. So one word that you mentioned, arrogance. I have been called arrogant like many times when I was younger, and I have not seen that as such an awful thing, because that's the arrogant part of me. I thought, well, the people who say that, they're just stupid people. So that's it. It was very easily explainable, right?
That's an arrogant thing to say.
Absolutely, absolutely, and because I am just such a intensely curious person, like I acquire a lot of knowledge, right? Because I want to know how things work. That's why I don't know. I have become an engineer, and I have just done so many different things in my life because of this curiosity. So, but this is like a double-edged sword, because like being younger, having read a lot more books than others my age, just take an interest in all sort of information, like just consuming information, gave me this false perception of, oh, well, I'm smarter than others, right? And it's funny how it then, throughout the years, have completely flipped, where I'm feeling just stupid every day. And I assume I'm more stupid than people around me. And if you take any particular subject, of course, I'm more stupid than others in those subjects, because nobody knows about everything. And everybody knows more about some things than I do, right? But that's my perspective now. It wasn't back then. And really that biggest, what made the biggest impacts on me in terms of self-awareness was at work, when I have for the first time been given a team to manage. And being a young guy still, right? So I was probably 24 at that time. So I got that responsibility kind of in a credit. So my boss giving me this job had been very clear that I am not ready, and he knows I'm not ready, but he knows that I'm willing to improve, that I want to be better. And again, that rings a bell to what you said, right? That desire to better ourselves. Now, I don't know if this is special or common. My feeling is that, well, why wouldn't you want to be better, right? Why wouldn't you want to improve? But at the same time, improving is just a very hard journey, because, well, you have to like break your programming that is running in your head, and you need to write this code again. And this is like a painful experience. There is struggle involved in that, yeah. And one of the big struggles for me early on was to admit that that there are things that are wrong with me. That there are ways in which I am not good. I'm not perfect. I'm not good enough, and I need to improve. And I think that's a hard pill to swallow for many. And even though it was hard for me, at the same time, that curiosity in how can I improve, like how can I be better, wanting to prove to myself and to others that I am capable of overcoming, right, whatever shortcomings I have. So that job was given to me on a kind of verbal agreement that I will be mentored to grow into that role. And it happened that members of my team were all older than me. They were all with more professional experience, and some of them have also hoped to get that managerial role. So that whole experience that lasted for forever since then, right? It has been all about like how to realize that my point of view is just one of many, that others are of equal value, and they are to be curious about, they are to be inquired rather than dismissed, right? And that's openness to, for example, like I am an introverted person. I like talking to people. I don't have a problem talking to strangers or taking or taking stage when there are a lot of people in the room. I like that kind of excitement. And right now, in that team that I mentioned, like one of the persons there on the team was an extreme introvert, and she was a very, very intelligent person, but most of the times she did not have a voice. And I made it my objective to give her this voice and to make sure that she's listened to. And she became really the star of the team because of that space. Yeah. So that self-awareness, really, like, I saw that very early on, that just with intentional thinking about others, action for the whole group can improve rapidly. And going from stories to fast forward to now, like what I think self-awareness is, I think there are three separate or three interconnected aspects, and of course can be defined in many ways. This is just my interpretation. So they are all three to do with mind, but they have like this secondary element. So one is mind, emotion, stuff that you talked about, right? Like understanding, like, why do I feel this way? How things affect me? Know thyself, right? So all this kind of ancient Stoic idea. And also through understanding emotionally self, we get to extend that and understand emotionally others. And that's super important because we are so interdependent. Our brain is just tricking us to think that, oh, well, I'm the individual, I'm the most important, and the rest of the world is just a stage for me, right? No, we are interconnected.
That's actually a good point.
human without all the
Emotional
humans.
intelligence.
Sorry, go on.
That's actually a good point. Emotional intelligence. I think that comes with being self-aware, understanding emotions, not just yours but others as well.
Absolutely.
So sorry,
And
sorry to interrupt.
no, no, that's
That was
fine. Go ahead
important.
anytime. And sometimes I get carried away, and we have to let's keep it a two-way conversation as well. Um, so that emotional side is super important because through understanding the emotional responses of others, we can also discover and understand our own emotional responses. Because sometimes we just react and we don't even take the time to think why we reacted this way or why our instinct is telling us this or that. And what I learned in life is that the more I pay attention to others and then ask them questions about their behaviors and their emotions and their actions, the more I get back my own understanding. Because after all, we are all humans and we are different, right? But there's always something to be learned from others. So I would say this first element is mind emotion, right? The second one is the mind values. So that's the introspection, not on the emotional side so much, but more on the logical side. What are those few things that are important in life to me personally? And that's a tricky one. It's the one that is really easy to avoid, and also it is tricky because it changes over time, right? So what I valued 10 years ago is different to what I value now, and
Yeah.
it's always something that we can continue exploring up to our old age, right? Because once you start having grandchildren, for example, immediately that becomes top of your my values will be there with
Yeah.
family and with children and so on, right?
That's why I think it's a journey, because as life changes for everyone, it throws different situations at you. So you're confronted by different situations where you realize, oh, I haven't been in this situation before. How do I react, or what is my reaction? And for example, having kids, like someone who never had kids, it's difficult to understand, the emotions and everything that comes with having a child.
Some say
So
impossible.
some say impossible, yeah. So it is a journey, truly, personal development and self-awareness. So yeah, I mean, there's so much to talk about here.
So
We're scratching the surface,
for
like
the
how
self-awareness,
we started, or
those
what put
three,
us on the
yeah,
path.
we can go deep into those other topics as well. But now to self-awareness, the first element, the mind emotion, then mind values, and the third element was surprising to me when I discovered it. But this is the mind body, and I discovered it fairly late, I would say, in my life. And I guess it refers to what you talked about, being kind to yourself and taking care of yourself. Yeah. So when people think about self awareness, is very much like the mental side. But now, mind body, there is such a insanely strong connection. And even people who do gym, right? There is this, for those who do physical exercise, know about the mind muscle connection, right? So how the mind connects to your body. But it's not just a muscle. We know surprisingly little about how we are built, what are all the bones in our body, what are all of the muscles and ligaments, and how it's all connected, and what's the proper form and function for it, right? So you can imagine this Da Vinci Virtuvian man, right? The naked guy with a star kind of configuration, and you see that the some sort of idealistic form of a human body. But Da Vinci was also a very curious guy about how human body works, apart of all his other interests. Yeah. So here we have this subject of self-awareness, where it comes to the only vessel that we have that is taking us through life, our body. Yeah? And look how it's so common to abuse our bodies. People
Yeah.
are
and
not
and,
eating right, they are not training, exercising, or doing too little of that. Or if they do,
and
they
it's
go on the sports that are very damaging to our body, right? Because you've got those people who don't exercise for a long time and then suddenly go and start doing triathlons or some crazy stuff that can be very taxing on body. That is also not healthy. So
yeah.
self-awareness in
I
terms
think,
of body, it's a whole topic that I would like to go at some point to, about
yeah,
proprioception,
I think the
understanding.
best
Please,
the
sorry.
best example of a mind body connection is just to think about what an effect can a 10-minute walk have on your mindset. So when you're feeling depressed or when you're feeling overwhelmed, if you go on a 10-minute walk or a 20-minute walk, the effect of it is such a profound effect that I don't think people realize how much the body can affect the mind, and also how the mind can affect the body. Because we all know, if you're stressed or if you have negative thoughts, that can manifest in physical illness. So that's a good thing that you brought that up, because I think this is such an important topic to talk about. Or maybe in a later episode, how the manifestation and how you know the mind can affect the body and the body can affect the mind. Because with exercise, I think you and I both realize that we've been exercising for years, and then you realize the positive effects of physical exercise on the mind. And yeah, we'll definitely need to explore that later.
Yeah,
Sorry,
absolutely. I
I
mean,
interrupted you again.
I'm pretty much done with this definition of self-awareness, right? So the three
Okay.
aspects of mind, emotions, mind values, and mind body. That's how I would encapsulate it. But it's, like you said, a very broad topic that can be talked about forever, and we will on these
Yeah.
shows, right? So, what's
Yeah.
please?
So I just wanted to say that maybe we should try AI and show everybody how it can help putting people on this path that we run,
Yeah.
who haven't experienced what we've experienced.
Okay, so once we go into that subject, there was a post on x.com from Ilya Sutskever, who is one of the minds behind OpenAI. And I would like to read it because it just, from a guy who participated in creating ChatGPT, it's very relevant to our conversation here. So what he said that in the future, once the robustness of our models will exceed some threshold, we will have wildly effective and dirt cheap AI therapy. Will lead to a radical improvement in people's experience of life. One of the applications I most eagerly await. So this is from a guy who have co-created ChatGPT, and he very much indicates that the personal development side of things is going to be a strength of these AI tools.
Yeah, I agree. It's like what we talked about in the first section of this podcast is a highly accessible therapeutic tool that would help millions of people potentially with mental challenges, which is probably, if not overdue, it's probably a good time that it comes around, because the crazy world we live in, mental health is the importance of mental health is increasing. So we have a look at an example of what AI can do.
Yeah, okay, so let me share the screen and I'll bring out ChatGPT here. And I have a prompt that I have already prepared. I will talk you through that.
So this is for people who haven't used AI before. So this is a free, accessible AI tool that anyone can use. So we're just going to show an example of how you could use it, and then feel free to create an account, and then how.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Right, so maybe for a little introduction. So ChatGPT is this access to GPT 3.5 in this case, because we are using the freely accessible one. So it's free of charge. If anyone is not using it, it's free. So go to chat.openai.com. You can register there with your email and get instant access to this free tool. And how it works, it is a text.
Would you mind hiding the message at the bottom, because you can't see what you're
Hide.
typing up there?
Okay.
Yeah.
So how it works, there is this trained model that is sitting on the OpenAI servers, and you can interact with this model through text. So you can talk to it just like you would talk to a person. So here I'm going to paste the prompt, which is the question that we ask the chatbot, and I will read it out before hitting enter. So we are asking ChatGPT to act as a philosophical counselor, Your task is to help me increase my self-awareness by suggesting one highest return on effort practical action I can take today. Ask me questions one by one until you have enough information to make a recommendation. Is that understood? So I hit enter and let's see. So firstly, the reasons why I phrased the prompt that way. So to act as a philosophical counselor, we are just narrowing down the type of information that the large language model is looking for. So we are looking at the knowledge that is applicable to philosophical counselor, and that makes it more powerful in that specified domain. Yeah? So it's always good to narrow down and provide context. Now, I also requested, so I'm very specific here. I talk about increasing my self-awareness, and I don't want a lot of advice. I just want one particular action I can take today and the one with highest return on effort. So like I'm being very specific. And I also ask it to ask me questions until it has enough information to make the recommendation, because I want it to tailor its recommendation to my particular circumstance. Yeah. So what's the reply? Certainly, let's begin this process of self-reflection and exploration. Could you start by describing a recent situation or experience that made you feel strongly in a certain way, either positive or negative? Please elaborate on what happened and how it made you feel. So how about you tell me what to reply? I will type it, and then let's see what ChatGPT comes back with.
Okay, so made you feel strongly. So should we put in feeling of injustice and feeling of anger? Do you think that's a good answer, or should we put in maybe my experience on a feedback that I wasn't, I was arrogant or?
Yeah, we could do that. So could you start by describing a recent situation or experience that made you feel strongly in a certain way, either positive or negative?
So we can say injustice makes me angry or makes
so
me.
how about we refer to these current events that we have in the world, right? So there is there is a war between Israel and Hamas in the Middle East. So I guess a lot of people will be able to relate, and I have been giving this topic a lot of thought and listening to not even both sides but various sides involved, and withdrawing myself from making quick judgments, right? So that's an interesting one that is perhaps current. So
Okay.
I feel sense of injustice because of the recent
Events.
events between
But
Israel. Let's see if
does it
it
have
works.
access to the internet? Does
No,
it
it
know?
doesn't. But so it has the model is like outdated. It is not live. It doesn't have access to the live internet. As far as I am aware, I know there are some beta versions that actually can access the internet, but I think we don't have it here. But I think it's not necessary for it to know, because it is aware of like the tensions there. And it is not about that situation. It is about my feelings, right? So the sense of injustice. And let's see if the model, if the chat GPT will actually focus on that and give me some advice. Yeah. Israel and Palestine. And we know that ChatGPT likes to be politically biased, so let's keep that in mind. And if this doesn't work, we can try another example. How it made you feel? I feel obligated to take a side. No, let's start this again. I feel pressured to take a side and feel confused about this complex situation. Okay, let's send that. Thank you for sharing your feelings about the situation in Israel and Palestine. Understanding the complexities of such situation can indeed be challenging. To assist you in increasing your self-awareness, let's delve deeper into your thoughts and emotions regarding this matter. Firstly, can you pinpoint the specific aspects of the situation that trouble you the most? Is it the loss of lives, the historical context, the geopolitical dynamics, or something else? Understanding what aspects resonate with you strongly will help in guiding further exploration. So you see, it is actually not, it's actually focusing on what we wanted to focus on. And it is remembering that the objective is to increase self-awareness, right? So let's come here with something, okay, I am actually troubled with all of those things that it proposed. And it's nice that it's offer choices, right? But of course, we can talk about any other things to it as well. It must be the loss of life, so let's focus on that one. It's about the loss of lives. Many people are dead on both sides of the conflict. And everyone claims they are right. Who should? I just want wars to stop. Okay? Thank you for clarifying. The loss of lives and the desire for an end to conflicts are very powerful and understandable sentiments. Now, let's focus on your personal values and beliefs. What values do you hold that lead you to wish for peace and an end to the loss of lives in this conflict? Additionally, have you been involved in any peace-related or humanitarian efforts in the past? Or is it a new concern for you? Understanding your values and past experiences can help us determine a practical action aligned with your beliefs. So, just from this piece of conversation,
Yeah.
hold on, I'll put there. Stop sharing.
It is.
So just
I
from
like the way. Yeah. I
okay,
like the way
you comment on this.
I
Yeah.
like the way it focuses on you and not on the situation. So it wants to help guide you and get to the bottom of the response that you're getting for the
Yeah.
situation. So I was a bit worried that it's going to go into
Me too, actually, because we have not even thought about what examples are we going to give, right? So it just comes up from chatting to you.
But it actually focuses on you and your beliefs and your reaction. So although it's a short conversation and we can continue this, but it's for everybody to do themselves. So this is just to show people how it works and how it can help. Yeah.
Yeah, we have not gone very far in this conversation. It was just to demonstrate that it can be constructive and incremental, right? So just like conversation with another person here, the person asks questions and makes comments that are relevant so that it can increase its understanding of this specificity of particular situation. And yeah, you're right. It is quite interesting to see that it is focusing on the self-awareness needs and not on the conflict, which if we talk to a person, that it's very likely that a person would start commenting on the conflicts, right? Because it's such a hot topic right now. Everybody has an opinion, or people who don't have an opinion are so pissed off and lost in all of it. And here, the large language model ChatGPT has the discipline to not be distracted by emotions. It actually is going to follow a very logical steps and is going to lead to some sort of resolution. And I think with what we have tasked the ChatGPT with this prompt, what we can do is we can continue this conversation, and there is now a feature in ChatGPT where a chat can be shared. So we could share that chat with those who listen, and you guys can just have a read with the right way of prompting, how powerful it can be, even helping people in the current situation of this Middle Eastern conflict to deal with maybe emotions that they are experiencing, right? And that that functionality is there right now. It is available to everyone, yet very few people use it. And to what you said, anyone can have it on their smartphone, right? This is something that can really help people. So, yeah, we have not thought about doing it this way, but this is something that we can offer to people to gain this further insight into what ChatGPT
Yeah,
can help people
yeah,
with.
that's interesting because the other way I was watching a news channel and I saw that they have a segment for children to explain the news, and
Right.
it's kids explaining kids what's happening, for example, in the Middle East. So, but that's only if you sit in front of the TV. But if you're not, if you're looking at your phones and you want to take action yourself, you can just do it on your mobile and have an impartial sort of counselor or a companion
Yeah.
to guide you to a response and ultimately to self-awareness
Yeah.
on what your reaction is to what your emotional reaction is to certain situations, and this is just one of them.
Yeah. And let's be clear that AI, where it is now in the current stage of development, it is not like a solution for everything. This is not some super intelligence that will always be right and always give the right answer. For me, it's
Yeah.
more reminiscent to that memory I have of years and years ago. I have been suggested to have an intellectual sparring partner. And that is exactly how it was phrased. And that's something that's stuck in my mind is about having challenging conversations with people who are good at listening, but people who don't want to just please you and give you, tell you what you want to hear, who will question you, who will, challenge you to think differently, right? And
Yeah.
it just occurred to me now that this is very much like that. It is taking that conversational AI, which is ChatGPT, and use it as an intellectual sparring partner. So make it challenge you, make it give you, open up new avenues of thinking, right? And I'm curious what that chat's about Israel and Palestine will give us in terms of self-awareness. And we're gonna share the results. Maybe we can put it in the newsletter or publish it somewhere on social media.
Yeah, exactly. That's really good. So let's talk about a little bit about what else is in the newsletter, because I just remember that we should tell people about other things that we do.
So how about you do that, and then we can close. And of course, like any
Yeah.
comments, any ideas, anything that you would like us to talk about, please message us, comment on, and get in touch. We are very happy to interact with anyone interested.
Yes, and if you like to share a story of yours that you think other people would benefit from, feel free to send it to us. Yeah, so the newsletter is very closely related to the podcast, but there are other content on there. For example, we've done a little research about what the effects of self-reflection is. We've got a few links to studies and articles on that, and we have other AI tools that we've referred to in the newsletter again. So with links. So we touch a little bit on the future possibilities of AI tools and personal development. So it's definitely worth checking out the newsletter. Subscribe to it. It's going to be sort of like a fortnightly thing initially. I think what we're going to do is send out a newsletter every 2 weeks and create a podcast on the topic of the newsletter. So yeah, that's the plan. Yeah, join us on a journey. Share your own stories, because we would love to talk about your stories as well. Get everyone involved, create a community, and see where we go.
Yeah.
I
Mindful
think
way
it's
of living.
definitely
That's where we're going.
mindful way of living. Yeah, exactly.
We just
So
crossed
yeah,
1 hour.
thank you for joining us on our first episode, and we'll see you in another one soon.
Yes, that's it. Thank you.